no idea how to do this, so I'm just going to do this like the way that I'm doing it now. And then I'm going to just splice everything together. My first, I keep deleting reading vlogs, and I really shouldn't delete reading vlogs. I've been trying. I just haven't figured out the formula that works for me yet. Anyway, this month, it was the end of the month, this month I was tasked by my husband to read 8 books. He rolled my TBR for me. Read 8 books that he picked out. I managed to read 4 and DNF'd 1. Wait, did I? No. I read 3. I'm in the middle of reading 1, and I DNF'd 1. You'll figure it out in a minute. So, my thoughts. Davy Jones and the Six, I read in one night because I was running out of time. I read in one night. I did read 8 books, by the way. Just about 8 books. Just not the ones that were picked for me. I read Davy Jones and the Six. I gave this a 4-star. I thought the story of this band who made it big and just couldn't handle the limelight and then disappeared was very intriguing. There was like a twist at the end, and I'm like, you didn't need that. Just tell the story. You didn't really need that twist. I think that this was greatly more enhanced by the fact that there is like a TV show and there's all this media around Davy Jones right now that made it more interesting to me. For example, while I was reading this book, there are certain songs that they go really in depth into in this book, and those songs actually exist now in a completely different way because they made an album last year. They made Aurora, which is the album mentioned in this book, into something physical. So I was listening to that while I was reading this book, and it kind of enhanced it a little bit. I also saw 2 episodes of the TV show, and for a while that was playing in my head while I was reading like the first half of this book. After a while it deviates from the TV show, and I haven't seen the rest of it, so I don't know how much it deviated from the TV show in regards to the overall story. Davy Jones, the characters. I only liked 3 people in this book. I liked Warren, I liked Camilla, and I liked Pete. And even though Pete didn't show up, him having his vibe was felt by me the biggest, along with Warren and along with Camilla, because they all had the same take on how to feel about fame in different ways, but it was similar. So I liked them. I did not care for characters like I thought Graham was fine until it got really he got really in his feelings about what was happening with Karen. And then there was Eddie, who, bless Pete for putting up with his brother, honestly. And Camilla had Billy in this, he had to work to keep himself balanced in regards to his family and Camilla kept him on that path. So kudos, really liked her. And in the end, she literally had to Daisy Jones was not a great person. And I did not like her in this book. I don't think I liked her. So I can see why things didn't ended the way they ended. Overall, I liked it. It wasn't mind-blowing or life-changing. If I didn't have that 3-star, if I didn't have the supplementary soundtrack and TV show, this probably would have been a 3.5. star. It was okay, but with the added extras, it made my enjoyment of the book a lot better. So, okay, I tried. I can't. I'm sorry. I made it to 126 pages, and I can't. I tried to make it through this book. It's not that the writing is bad. I'm sure that there are people who love this story. It's just that I have a feeling that this ends on a cliffhanger. Like, you can't just read one book and you're done. There is more happening. Find myself not caring about the main characters, not caring about anything that's happening in this book. I just find myself not liking it, not engaging. There are just so many other books on my list to read. Um, I'm sorry, right? But if you had a person who is going to ruin your whole kingdom and rule, why keep them alive? Who cares? You're the ruling class. You are the ruling class. Who cares? Who cares? Like, the main reason they decide not to kill this girl in this book is because they believe that people are going to talk about it and it's going to get out. But you're the ruling class, and people already think that Reds are don't have powers. Why keep her alive? Why? It makes no sense. Then there was The Vampire Lestat by Anne Rice. I really enjoyed this. I actually read half of this book in one night. I just loved that it was just this continuation of Interview with the Vampire. So, if you don't know what The Vampire Lestat is about, Interview with the Vampire came out first. That's the first book in the Vampire Chronicles series. This is its sequel. In this book, the vampire Lestat, the Lion Court, who was kind of the antagonist in the first book. You know, he meets Louis, he turns Louis into a vampire. They adopt Claudia together, and things go south very quickly, and Louis escapes from Lestat. In this, Lestat has been asleep for many, 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 many years. I think in the previous book, it was when we last saw Lestat, it was like 1800 or something. And in this, he wakes up in the 1980s. He wakes up after many, 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 many years, goes out into the world, so the world is changed, and discovers that there is a book called Interview with the Vampire that was written by Louis. It was an interview with Louis as its subject, and he reads the book and he is not happy about the way that he was portrayed in that book. So he decides to pen his own book, and this is that book. This I loved. I really enjoyed this. I didn't think that I would get sucked into it as much as I did, and I can see why now. Why Lestat is the favorite out of all of the vampires in Anne Rice's Vampire Chronicles. Personally, I like Ormond, but that was only from like seeing Antonio Banderas in the movie, and Now I can see why Lestat is the big person he is, the big personality he is. I loved that he started out really, really innocent and he was having to deal with issues in regards to his brothers and father, and he literally just had his mom to lay back on, and then he falls in love with Nikki, and it's so good. It's so good. Okay. This might be I have the rest of the books, but for now, this might be my favorite out of the books, and I I I love that I have this like paperback version of it because it's so little and it fits my hand as well. Well, I have like another version for the rest of them, but I think I just love. I think I really like Lestat now. I can see why people like Lestat. I can see why now. But 5 star, of course. 5 star. These are the ones that are left. This is Payback's a Witch by Lana Harper, and this is The Collective by Alison. Gaylin, I wanted to read this. These are the 2 books that I'm going to try and read for the rest of March, which is 4 days. 4 days. But I'm halfway through the 3rd book that I wanted to finish this month, so that was off my shelf. And I'm going to try and read these 2 books. So they are also off my shelf, but I don't know if I'm going to make it. What I'm not get to, though, are these 2 books. This is Sherlock Holmes and Count Dracula by Christian Klaver. This is a cross between Sherlock Holmes and Count Dracula, where Dracula is actually like one of the heroes in this book. And while it sounds really adventurous, I didn't get to it for whatever reason, mostly because I was mood reading other books. And this chunky, floppy beauty is a book that I do want to get to. Upon a Burning Throne by Ashok. I do want to get to this, but this is going to be on the list of books that I have to sit down and just finish and enjoy. Probably when I have like a slow reading month and I don't want to concentrate on like too much stuff at once, I am going to sit down and get myself into some political intrigue. So this is going to go on my I definitely need to get back into this shelf, which I do have on my written shelf, and it's kind of full at the moment because there's a lot of books on it. But yeah, I'm gonna put that on, and I'll probably like tackle that whole shelf around my birthday in June. And currently, I am reading. I'm like halfway through The Girl Who Left by Jenny Blackhurst. This is a thriller, and I've not been interested in thrillers lately. Normally, this is like a palate cleanser for me when I've been deep in the fantasy, but I've not been deep in the fantasy. I've actually been really deep in thrillers lately. So I have been struggling to get into my thriller reads. This is all about a girl named Catherine. It's actually about 2 people. One is Catherine, and the other one is Maggie. Maggie is a DCI, a DI, detective inspector, for a small town in Anglesey in England, in Wales. And the other is Catherine. Her dad was accused and charged and put in jail for murdering a girl when a 5-year-old girl who was Catherine's best friend, and she's basically spent her whole life blaming her dad for how her life has turned out and trying to find out why her dad did it. And every time she goes to see him, he never talks to her about it until one day her two things happen. One, her mom attempts to commit unaliving, and another young girl is taken in the small town that they lived in. Now, they moved away. The whole family has moved away, and they moved away 25 years ago. And on the 25th anniversary of that first crime happening, this little girl, Abigail, is taken as well. So now, Catherine is kind of wondering, why is this happening again? Is it the same? Is it a copycat, or is her dad actually innocent? Especially after she hears the voicemail from her mom talking about how she's very sorry for what happened and how screwed up their life was. So it sounds really interesting, and it is actually interesting. I am flying through this. I think the last one I flew through a thriller that I've read with my own eyes was 50-50, and made me a huge fan of Steve Kavanaugh. So there. However, there are issues with this book. There are some issues with this, especially with Catherine. Also, this feels like a book that I read, like point by point, that I read last year, but just set in Britain, and see what's going on there. What's happening. These were the books that I were tasked to read, but I ended up reading some other things because I'm a mood reader and it's hard to break that. Um, I have two other, I think I talked about the other books that I read. And I just finished Becky by Sarah May. This, for those of you who have never read the book before, not this one, but another book that it's based on, is a Vanity Fair retelling. And it does keep close to the other book, like it's influenced by it. Shaking the desk. It's influenced by it. A lot of the character names are the same, and it does follow some of the plot points of the book from what I've read, but it's very much its own thing. This book follows Rebecca Sharp, as she starts from nothing up to her rise as a CEO of a very prestigious tabloid newspaper in the 90s. And you can see a lot of parallels. If you grew up in the 90s, you can actually see a lot of parallels to some things that happened in the 90s in this book. Um, as for the story, if you're going into this thinking that you're getting, like I did, thinking that you're getting a lot of like tabloid gossip or finding out scandals or dealing with fictional scandals, you aren't gonna get that. You are gonna get the fallout of these scandals. You're not really going to get the scandals themselves. You're getting the fallout of these scandals and how these scandals affect Rebecca's life and affect the lives of those around her. And that is where a lot of the awful people come from, because you're seeing, at least through Becky's eyes, so you can't really, I guess you can't really say that they are horrible because it is Becky telling you that they're horrible, or some things that she is showing you saying that they're horrible people. So you might have an unreliable narrator on your hands. But yeah, it's just an interesting book. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a little bit. There were some times where I was like, ugh, this is going to be horrible. It's going to end horribly. And Becky is choosing all the wrong things, at least in terms of what I think is right. And she's just interested in her own thing. And that's fine for her. But it's also affecting people around her, people that she claims to love or not love or whatever. But I haven't talked about one which was like a puppet romance thing. Book was wild. It was called a puppet scorned. It was wild. It was short, but it was wild. It read like a creepypasta. Loved it. I also read Bad Company, which was an arc by Janice Baxter, which was really good and really dark. It's about these two people who experience two different types of trauma, and it leads them to do really bad things as a way to get revenge, as a way to deal with their rage. It's actually really good. I got that as an arc from Bloodhound Books, which I get every month, and I really enjoyed that. What else did I read? I don't think I read anything else. So yeah, that's that. I think I'm missing some stuff, but it's fine. I only talk about the ones that I found interesting. So that's that. I'm done. This is gonna be sad kind of sad kind of reading vlog, sorry. But that's that. I need to find a really better.
Some books have fallen behind. Looks like you don't want to read them. If that's the case, I'll take them away from you. These 4 books are now in book jail. Tack för att du tittade. Hoppas du har en bra dag. Hej då och godnatt.